I get the big stage today. Good morning, all. It's great to be back here. This is going a little bit off script, but I wonder if you guys realize what an amazing facilitator Charles is. He makes our jobs as speakers just amazing. So have a little thought in your head for how brilliant he is and how he's helping us. I want to spend a little bit of time today. Unfortunately, today I have to use the corporate material, boo. But I'm going to focus on a couple of things around what it is that we see happening at the opportunities at our doorstep today. Yesterday I spoke about the fourth wave and the fourth wave of intelligent infrastructure that's coming at us. Today I want to break into some of those issues, some of those things that are driving that. And I think the biggest, most important of those is the growth of data. That chart over there starts in 2010 and it ends in 2030, and it is a factor of about 1,500 growth in terms of data, the quantity of data that we are producing. And that is not slowing down. Those numbers, by the way, are produced by Bloomberg, and they predate the burst of data that is coming out of AI. So in point of fact, that's probably half of actually the number that it should be. What is also changing is the rise of super intelligent software algorithms and machine intelligence. If we go back 5 or 6 years, people were saying, is the cloud here? Is the cloud real? What is the cloud? So on and so forth. There was some doubt. There was some, is it real? What is this thing? I can stand on the stage today and tell you that AI is real. AI is here. It's happening. It's happening at a phenomenal pace. And very often it's happening in small ways that you might not realize are transforming your lives. I drive a Polestar. It's an EV, and it's not it doesn't have any form of autonomous driving. But if I pick up the phone and I make a phone call, or I don't see that pedestrian, I live and I drive in Amsterdam, where we have more bicycles than anything. If I don't see the cyclist who's jumping across the red light, my car does. My car is paying attention every single minute that it is on. And it is able to recognize and determine whether that cyclist is going to get in my path or not. Seems simple, right? But do you know how many petabytes of data and how many thousands of training algorithms were put in there? And we don't really think of that when we talk about AI. What we talk about when we're thinking of AI is Gen AI, is being able to have a conversation with your AI. But I have a real living experience with my AI every single time I get into that car. And it's pervasive across life. And how do you think these things happen? It's all about data. It's all about data. What hasn't changed as we hit this massive growth of data is all of that data needs to be managed. Your teams need to manage it. They need to make sure that it is protected. They for sure need to make sure that it's governed. In Europe, we have some particularly strange laws, and I know that I found out yesterday that you guys have basically taken GDPR and made a Kenyan equivalent of it, which is great news. But that is a tremendous governance effort that is required to make sure that your data is GDPR compliant. For example, I work for a Dutch company, I'm a Dutch national. 2 years after I have left the company that I work for has to delete all records, or everything associated with my employment time. Payslips, bank details, any files associated whether I was a bad employee or a good employee or any of that nature. 2 years after it has to go. And it has to be automatic, and it has to be provable. And there are all sorts of strange things, and those are all data issues. They can get you into a lot of trouble, into a tremendous amount of trouble, 4% of your organization's turnover if you're found in breach and violation. CSRD is coming into effect from the end of this year. CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. If you want to do business with any government in the EU, you need to be able to show what it is that you are doing to make your data, your IT, your systems sustainable. That's governance. That's the ability to report. And when we see data exploding at the pace and the rate that it is exploding and changing, this is not something you can do as an add-on. These aspects, the manage, the protect, the govern, have to be built from the ground up into your thinking, into your infrastructure. You can't bolt them on. They won't work if you bolt them on. The scale of growth and the pace of change and innovation is too fast. It needs to be endemic to what it is that you do. And optimization, I think it speaks for itself, right? Money. And money that you spend, I think money being spent on storage is a waste. I say that I work for a storage data company. I think money being spent on storage is a waste. If I can show you how to store 100 terabytes in 10 terabytes, I would rather do that and have you buy 10 terabytes. And I'd rather you use the money that you were going to spend for other forms of innovation that will drive greater creativity and greater benefit to your organization, because then you will come back and you will buy another 100 terabytes. But I have saved you where I need to save you. And that is part of a responsible IT. And then it has to be shared. Now, sharing is where we get into the fun when it comes with security. So I will talk now about what we believe we are in. I believe we have entered now the era of data and intelligence. We heard from the panel yesterday, everybody, absolutely everybody in that panel was talking data, the importance of data, the mountains of data that sits in boxes. Just because it's on paper doesn't mean it has any less value, right? So we need to digitize, we need to get it into an IT system, we need to have it indexed and cataloged. That was a fantastic session, a fantastic presentation, and I think there's a tremendous opportunity there. But it doesn't stop there. That data is your IP. That data is your asset, right? So we're in this period now where intelligence needs to be applied to every piece of data that we hold and that we store. iTest. This is the corporate slide I was referring to. Unfortunately, for you to understand some of the things that we do, I need to drop in a little bit to your CTO level, right? I know most of you are CIOs. Bear with me for a second here. I'm going to talk a little bit about our flagship product. Everything we do at NetApp is based around a software, a storage operating system called NetApp Data ONTAP, right? It's an operating system, it manages your storage, and it is consistent if it runs in the boxes that we sell you in your data centers, if it's a piece of software that you deploy running on a virtual instance somewhere to behave like a storage array, or if you deploy it in Amazon, in Google, or in Azure. It's the same software. It's a software that's about 30 years old. It's on iteration 8-ish. Although we keep a version and then we number from 8.1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. So it's not that there's only been 8 iterations. If you know NetApp, and I'm sure most of you don't, you will know us for this tiny little block on the corner here. That's what you'll know us for. But if you have deployed an Amazon instance or an Azure instance, or if you have worked with IBM, or if you have worked with any of the Accentures of the world, then you will probably have known us for our unified data storage. Where we are today is the 6 blocks around that. Right? I'm sorry, I had to be a little technical there so that you understand. What our ONTAP operating system does is, it used to be really simple. Let's say you had a requirement to store 100 blocks of data, right? You gave me 100 blocks of data. You had an expectation that when you asked me for it, I would give you your 100 blocks back, right? Pretty simple. That's not complicated. Then you came along and you said, I like this 100 blocks of data, but I don't want to pay you for 100 blocks of data. I want to pay you for 50 blocks of data, but I'm going to give you 100. So we went, oh, okay, that's cool. We'll compress it and we'll compact it and we'll squash it in. And now you can store 100 blocks, but only in 50 blocks worth of data. Cool. So we focused on efficiency. Then you said, I have it running on my Unix machines, and what I would like to do is I would like to make it available to my Windows machines. But they use different access protocols. Huh. Okay. So we wrote the SMB stack for Microsoft. and we included it into our on-top operating system so that you can access your data from any protocol. All right? Now that's different behavior characteristics that we need to build in. Then the clouds came along, and you said, hey, I want to take this piece of data, this 100 blocks, which I'm storing in 50, and I want to put it in Amazon for a project that I'm working on in Amazon because I want to see if I can use some of the latest tools and exciting things that Amazon has. And so we went, give us a minute. And then we came up with FSXN for ONTAP, and we gave you the ability to put that 100 blocks, stored in 50 blocks, on Amazon, retaining the efficiencies, retaining the shared multi-protocols, and retaining the ability to be accessed by anybody. But now it was sitting in the cloud with a consistent management protocol. Then you came along and you said, you know what, I've got this AI project and I want to work on it. And at the moment, we've got a really good deal with Google. And Google's AI stuff is, man, it's kick-ass, it's good, I want to use it. Okay, so we did the same thing and we put it into Google for you. Then you came along and you said, oh, look at this bill I'm getting from the hyperscaler. Can I bring it back, some of it? Can I automatically bring some of it back? I went, sure, we'll make that process automatic for you. And so the repatriation of data back in, data that's not used, data into the cloud is all automatic. And that's what we refer to as an intelligent data infrastructure. The characteristics of the data determine its efficiency, where it's stored, how long you keep it, and so on and so forth. That, to me, is then simplicity and savings, because that efficiency is inherited wherever you put it. That ability to have a common management platform exists regardless of where you put it. That ability to be able to consolidate massive amounts of storage into smaller storage units, storage arrays, storage intelligence if you're not using the cloud, and make it available to every application you need with consistent common management takes you across there into the simplicity part again, right? I won't talk too much about sustainability, but I will talk about scalability, because not only do we go up to exabytes, we go down to gigabytes. We've just launched the smallest operating system for storage on Google Cloud, where you can now buy 1 gigabyte of NetApp storage. This is crazy. I have almost as much as that on my phone, but I can now buy that on enterprise-grade storage running in a hyperscaler. So we go down and we go up. But what I said I would talk about today is security. I'll start with security. I think I've covered cloud a little bit, and I'll end on AI. So before I came to NetApp, I worked for one of the banks. If you look me up on LinkedIn, you'll be able to know who it is, but please don't go too far with this story. I used to work for one of the banks, the biggest bank in the Netherlands. I don't know if they're still the biggest bank, but they were the biggest bank at the time. And I was an enterprise architect brought in by EDS, part of HP at the time, and my responsibility was data security. And I quickly discovered that if you bolt the doors but leave the windows open, that's a really stupid thing to do, right? Security is, for data, is an overall approach. You have to think like a thief. You have to think like a skellum. I don't know if that word translates, but you have to think like somebody who does not have your best interests at heart. You have to think like somebody who really wants to watch your patterns when you come in and out of the door and see whether they can slide in behind you as you're going in. So building an effective data security platform requires thinking across the whole scope and the whole scale. And we've been doing this for some time, for quite some time. If you have one of our storage arrays, and you've had it for years, you will know this, but we have a product called ActiveIQ. And what ActiveIQ does is it sends telemetry back to us about your storage array. You can turn that off if you don't like it, fine. We have high security instances that won't even let our people into the place, let alone any data out. But you can also send it to send telemetry about usage, about behaviors, about patterns of what's going on in the box, so on and so forth. Our boxes have been doing that for 20-something years. And we have millions of instances of our storage arrays installed worldwide. We have over an exabyte of data in AWS alone, which is a huge amount of data. And we've learned what access patterns mean. We've learned to recognize when a ransomware attack is taking place on your data. Now, we're at the data layer, we're at the data intelligence layer. We can't see what's happening at your compute, and we can't see what's happening at your network. But we can recognize the change in behavior, in file ownership, in usage patterns, in data being moved, in permissions, and so on and so forth that is taking place on data levels, be it on block or file, be it on any of the platforms that we operate on. We can see it instantly. So instantly, we are certified by many government authorities to be able to turn on what we call autonomous ransomware protection. Now, I will not stand on the stage and say that you can turn on ARP and your security issues are fixed. Hell no. What we're doing by turning on ARP is we're helping you to lock the door and put steel bars on it. But it's still your responsibility to make sure your windows are closed and your staff have badges and so on and so forth. But we are giving you a very robust, extremely accurate tool that will enable you to identify when something is going on that you would really rather wasn't. And what ARP will do is it will trigger any event that you decide. So you can say, give me a warning. The problem with warnings is if they get ignored, ransomware attacks are generally quite fast. You can also say, take an immediate snapshot of the data when you recognized it and keep going. So I at least have a secure, protected copy of the data. Or you can say, do some more invasive actions. The user who is triggering these events, block them, disable them, make it permanent, make it require two admins to unblock them, two separate admin processes to unblock them. Take a snapshot, move the snapshot offsite, and lock it. We can lock snapshots. We can make snapshots absolutely worm, right? Once read many and immutable changes. We can do all of these things for you, up to whatever you want. And this is built into our storage operating system. And it has, I don't know if any of you have Macs. Mac, there's a security feature that says automatically enable security updates, and you don't even know when they're taking place, they just get filtered in. And because of the volume of users that we have using ransomware, let's say a new ransomware attack occurs on somebody, and the behavioral patterns are common enough for us to recognize it, and we catch it, that information about how that pattern took place is replicated to all systems worldwide immediately. So we have this fantastic built-in security facility available. It sits as part of your security. It does not replace your security. And the best part about it is if you're running on tap, it's absolutely free. Absolutely free. We believe it is part of a responsible storage administrator function to be able to provide these services to anybody who is using them. So I think that's pretty cool. We've seen, we enabled it, I think it was about 8 months ago that we brought out the public release of ARP, maybe it was 12 months ago. And we've seen a 4,000% growth in utilization of people turning it on, and it is accelerating. And why would you not turn it on when it's free and so good? So that takes me to the next topic, which is the topic of AI and what we think about AI. So I said that AI is a data problem, right? Or a data opportunity. And we heard yesterday from the panel, AI is data is what matters. Well, we are the kings of data. We are the intelligent data infrastructure company. And let me come back to that efficiency. I'm going to tell you how a typical AI project would work. Let us say the guy who was sitting on the left here yesterday, he said that he has a terabyte worth of data that is being produced every week. That's 52 terabytes that is being produced every year. Let's say he has 10 data scientists who want to work on that project. Each data scientist wants his own copy of the data. That's 520 terabytes of data. And they probably want to run 4 to 5 modeling algorithms on each copy of the data. So 512 terabytes worth of data multiplied by a factor of 4. Suddenly that 50 terabytes of usable data has gone up to a petabyte of data. Now maybe the value is there. Maybe you will find the value in that data. But how about we take the 52 terabytes of data, we give each data scientist a copy of the data, but it's a thin copy. So it doesn't cost anything. It costs maybe 2%. We then let them replicate it as many times as they want. Each of those replicants is a thin replicant, single-digit percentage points. Only the changes they make need to be built in. That same exact scenario now results in from 52 terabytes to maybe 100 terabytes with 10 data scientists, 4 models each across an entire year. I think that's a compelling story for data scientists because it plays to the ego of the data scientists. They want their own copy, which perhaps today you can't give them because of the cost. They want as many copies as they want, and they want to do whatever they want to give you the value that you think you're going to get out of AI. Now, the cool thing about that is that we build in all the tools and technologies that enable you to do this. We also build in the tools and technologies that enable you to do this with your data in situ and then utilize the smarts in Vertex, for example, or in Azure's data lake that they build for cloud. And we do it also with in AWS in terms of being able to take the gap, remove the gap, so you don't need the replicas. All the while, we're doing this with savings, and we're doing this with that security built in mind. And this is the story that I am seeing really driving our adoption super high. Of course, if you want to, and if you have the resources, you can take our products, and you can plug them into NVIDIA DGX boxes. We're DGX certified, massive, massive arrays, petabytes worth of data, $25 million per DGX array. We'll support that, and we'll give you the best outcome. I just don't think that's necessarily what most people want to do. They want the data and the intelligence to work together. So that's my story for today. It's gone red. It's going to start shouting at me soon. I want to respect the time. I will be in our booth and around. I am unfortunately flying back later. But if any of you want to challenge me, throw things at me, question me, please find me on LinkedIn, and we can continue the conversation. Thank you.